Hello, I'm Deacon Tim Sullivan. We're starting a new series here in the diocese during the coronavirus period when people are sheltered and we're not going to Mass, we're not doing the things we normally do as Catholics. And so what we thought we would do would be to interview some of the younger priests in the diocese and maybe some of the seminarians. And we're calling this series Greenhorns in Black. Greenhorns in Black, kind of an oaky phrase. And the whole goal of this is so that people in the diocese who don't know our younger priests will have a chance to meet them and hear from them and get to know them a little better personally. And then we're also going to be looking for some inspiration from our young priests as well. And so we're going to start off with Father Shane Hewson, who is an associate pastor at St. Bernard Church. He was ordained last summer, the summer of 2019. I have the privilege of working with Father Shane. So, Father Shane, thank you for participating in this adventure. Why don't you tell the people of the diocese a little bit about your background, where you're from, and some of the maybe significant events in your life in terms of background, education, etc.
Okay, well, thank you first off, Deacon Tim, for having me as your first, your guinea pig, really, for this. So it'll be good. It'll be good for the diocese, and I think for my brother priests to be able to share a little bit. Well, again, thank you for your introduction. My name's Father Shane. I just kind of go by Father Shane, and I grew up in the Tulsa area in Broken Arrow, and I was baptized at St. Benedict's Catholic Church with Father Hildebrand, Father Tom Hildebrand, God rest his soul. And I'm the youngest of three children. My family background is, I have my mom's whole side of her family's from New York, and they came down with American Airlines in the 70s. And my father's from outside Chicago area, lived in Missouri, kind of like a farm kid growing up. But I was a suburban boy, and my family kind of started the St. Benedict's church and parish out at the old Our Lady of Sorrows convent in East Broken Arrow before they built the church as it is now, St. Benedict's. And then when they built that in '83, my parents themselves were the very first couple to be married in the church. And so it's always kind of a nice gift that the very first couple would produce, and I think I could say they produced as well, a vocation to the priesthood in their youngest son. So that's me. And but I grew up, just like anybody else, suburbs, Broken Arrow Public Schools all 12 years of my life, and had my older sister, older brother. We spent a lot of time together, activities, sports. I played soccer, basketball, baseball. The one I still play is soccer every once in a while. Big events in my life, I don't know. I did preach a homily the other day about breaking my arm on the skateboard, which I did 2 years later, again, the same way on a dirt bike. So I'm extreme kind of sports guy. I really like extreme sports and getting into things that aren't as, tame, if you will. So I've done.
Sounds like you're accident prone.
Yeah, the insurance, the diocese is gonna have to take a bit more insurance out on me, I think.
Right.
I've been skydiving. I like free diving. All that stuff, rock climbing, whatever I can do. It's fun. So, but yeah, otherwise, I was confirmed, at St. Benedict's under Bishop Slattery. And I think that for me really kind of sealed the deal. I grew up with a very Catholic identity, but something I could really feel the Holy Spirit at the confirmation, and was open to it and sealed the deal that I was going to be Catholic in the full sense. And I didn't want to be anything else. I knew what that meant. Was kind of developing much later what would become a vocation after I went to Oklahoma State University. And, but yeah, so.
Well, good. And so you are assigned at St. Bernard's. How's that going for you?
It's going well. I get to work with people such as yourself. Very fun. A lot of good humor, and there's a tear every once in a while, though. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying working with Monsignor Gallus. Of course, he was my pastor for 12 years at St. Benedict's, and I was a little child running around the pews when he was the pastor. Now I'm this associate pastor at another church. So it's kind of funny.
Well, we'll get a little more serious here now, Father. What would you say is at the top of your list for what you would like to accomplish as a priest? What
Oh,
is,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've never really liked that term or thinking about accomplishments.
Well,
Uh, it's kind
maybe
of
a goal that you
yeah,
might have, an aspiration.
sure. Well, I guess I don't know. I hope that I just kind of receive whatever God gives me, in my life, as as He gives it to me, and whether it's a different assignment that might be challenging, or a particular tragic event in my life, or something, I don't know, but that I would just humbly accept whatever God gave me. That I wouldn't try to be ambitious. I think maybe that's why I kind of rail against the idea of accomplishment. But yeah, I mean, I just want to respond well and continue responding well to the Lord. It's a matter of continual conversion. But I don't know. I want to be a good pastor, and I want the people to come to realize that I do love them, and maybe that I would come to realize that I do love them myself. Um, and just to be able to be joyful at all times, because it's not always easy transitioning into the new, as a new baby priest, if you will. So.
Yeah. So speaking of which, what's been the biggest surprise so far in your new life as a priest?
Well, I guess I didn't think I would miss the seminary as much
Oh,
as I do.
wow. Yeah.
Monsignor Dennis Dorney is my spiritual director, and we talk with him every so often about what's going on in my heart. And he said, I think you're having seminary withdrawals. So what? That sounds funny because nobody really likes the seminary, but I happen to love the seminary. I enjoyed my time there, and I was always spending time with friends. We were all live on the same hall. We had a lounge, and it was just easy, if there wasn't much going on, to just sit down in the lounge for a couple hours and have a great conversation, maybe watch a television show, or do something interesting together, or go out in the city. Whereas now I have to be more intentional with my friends, and I am. I call the other young priests in the diocese a lot and spend time with them. But that's kind of been maybe one of the things that I'm still working on. So.
One of the things I've picked up from you, Father, is that your fellowship with the other young priests and the seminarians is really something that seems very special. Can you comment on the nature of the relationship, the fellowship that you enjoy with the other young priests and even some of the seminarians?
Yeah, certainly. I just enjoyed the seminary so much, and one of the reasons I joined the seminary was kind of disenfranchised with Greek life at Oklahoma State. So I was a Phi Delta Theta member of the fraternity at Oklahoma State, and I don't really have any of those guys as like good, solid friends. And I was always looking for deep, interior relationships that I could have, on a more intentional level. And the seminary seemed to be the perfect way. And it was one of the positive pros, if you will, of going to the seminary that I looked at, and okay, well, I'll give it a shot, because no man goes into the seminary his first year believing he will be a priest, or thinking that it's all right, it's a done sealed deal. But so for me, just having that as really part of what gives me energy and what gives me life, and I really enjoy spending time with guys, and it kind of keeps me sane, it keeps me holy, and because we all build each other up and talk about what's going on, in the diocese or in the world. And a lot of us are on the same page with a lot of things, that we'd like to see different, or that we'd like to, a change we might like to affect. But what I would say is our diocese is quite special in that we have a very cohesive bond between the seminarians, at least when I was a seminarian, and the priests, now the young priests. We all just kind of got along like peas in a pod, and kind of just naturally hanging out with each other. Whereas the other seminarians, I was at a seminary with representing dioceses from all over the country, and it just didn't seem quite the same. They might get together once or twice a year on a very formal level with their brother seminarians, at the end of the summer. But we, the seminarians in Tulsa, we just got together on a regular basis, like 2-3 times a week. And so it's just a very natural kind of even keel, camaraderie that we have. And I've really enjoyed that. And I'm trying to continue that as a priest. It's because it's too easy to get too busy and split up into your parish assignments, and then you want to be with the parishioners, which is good, but we really need that brother time with brother priests.
Yeah, well, thanks, Father. That's quite interesting. We'll go a little different direction here now with the next question. This is more content oriented for our people in the diocese. So if a Catholic in our diocese is asked by a non-Catholic, why are you Catholic? What do you think would be the best answer?
The best answer or the most typical answer?
Not necessarily the most typical. What do you think? How do you think a Catholic should best answer that? Because
Okay, well,
we in Eastern Oklahoma, we're in the Bible Belt. People ask
exactly.
us questions like that. Why haven't you
Yeah,
been
well,
saved? Why are you Catholic? All of that.
right. Well, I think that's a good way you bring up, being in the Bible Belt, in the midst of Protestants who have a real, a faith which is actuated and on fire. And I think as a Catholic, we can use their terminology to say the same thing, So I think a Catholic should respond that he's Catholic because only through the Catholic Church can you have, most effectively, most fully in the Catholic Church can you have a real and deep and personal relationship with Jesus Christ, who is our God and Savior. I think that would be a good response, maybe the best response, especially if speaking to non-Catholics, maybe Protestants or non-denominationals in Eastern Oklahoma.
Right.
Just bringing it back to the center of everything, keeping the main thing, and that's Jesus Christ. So,
yeah, amen. So,
amen.
well, final question. Do you have any advice for our Catholic people in dealing with the coronavirus epidemic? It's changed the life of all of us. Do you have any suggestions, recommendations at the top of your list for how we can best use the situation that exists right now to grow deeper in our faith?
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely have ideas about it because nobody really knows what to do. We're kind of in uncharted territory. All the different things converging with the technology that we have I think as Americans, we're not used to being inactive. We don't know how to just sit. And so two things, I think God is trying to teach us, especially in the West. Now, this is a pandemic. It's a universal, impacting kind of thing. But in the West, at least in America, and my own experience is that God is trying to teach us, one, that we're mortal beings. He's showing us that very clearly. And two, that just because you're inactive does not mean that you don't have value. That just being with somebody else, the person you're quarantined with, or if you're alone, I understand that many people are alone in this times, widows and things, that they're not alone, that they're alone, but God is there with them and can see them through this, even in their plight of, boredom or loneliness or whatever. So I think the big thing is just getting back to the basics. Like we're God's children, and that alone counts for a lot, probably most of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a Christian. It's just to recognize that we are sons and daughters of God, regardless of what we do or don't do. Now, we have to do things, obviously, but so that there's value in just being, and that we're mortal beings. So we're headed toward a point in our life, and we don't want that to be the final say. We don't want death to be the final say. We want the resurrection to have the final say. And so keeping our minds attuned to what God is really asking of us in this time, and how can they do that practically? Well, I think, and I've not been so great at it, but I'm trying, is to actually take the time in the silence. Lent was a good time. We've just finished it, so now we're in the Easter celebration. But to continue to try to be silent and really allow yourself to be silent. Maybe that's just a couple of minutes a day for those who have had busy lives and all of a sudden they've got all this time. Or maybe it's for those who have been trying silence for a long time, an hour, just in their prayer room or on the deck of the porch like I am now. And finally, besides the silence, maybe to make that phone call to that, friend that you haven't spoken to in a while, the neighbor, who's on their own, or the elderly couple down the block, and I think, so we can still do a lot with the technology, but we don't have to go overboard. And that's the thing. So.
Okay, great advice. I remember a homily you gave before Easter, and it was after the epidemic had started. You made reference, I think, to the fact that now might be an opportunity to be like the Holy Family in Nazareth before the public life of Jesus, when he spent
Right.
30 years in a quiet way. And that's maybe where involuntarily where God is leading us during this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Tim. I think, and that only came to me in the moments before the homily, as the Holy Spirit tends to do. But I really think about, we don't know what happened, but the Holy Family did have to flee to Egypt. And again, there was no temple sacrifice in Egypt. There were probably very, very, very few Jews in Egypt at the time of the flight to Egypt. And that's a historical thing that they actually went. But that means something, right? And I think that it can enlighten our situation today. That even Christ Himself, went down to a place where the religion, the actual tangible nature of the religion, the sacrifices, weren't being done, weren't being fulfilled. So um, maybe we can get back to the real sacramentality of creation itself and understand that, and then have that be really an energizing or an animating principle at which we can then reapproach the sacraments themselves with an invigorated and more lively faith to receive truly the grace of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, which, God takes things away sometimes so that we might miss them, so that we might come to realize maybe we've taken them for granted, and truly grow in that way by detachment. So.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Father, for being with us. That's great advice. And we'll look forward to seeing you again at work when we resume our duties at the parish. But I'm glad the people of the diocese get a chance to get to know you, and maybe your paths will cross with some people that are watching you now and getting to know you, but we'll never see you personally maybe until the future. So thanks again.
Right. Oh, you're welcome, Deacon Tim. Thank you. And I'm excited to see where this little segment goes in terms of with the other young priests. And I'll be interested to hear what they have to say as well. So we'll be looking forward to the near future.
Okay. Well, help me set that up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I am. Don't worry. I got 3 names for you.
Okay, good. Thanks, Father.
All right. God bless you. Okay.